Last throat clear. All right. Proceeds to choke. Welcome back to the Jane Doe Podcast. We got a good one for you today. Actually, I'm not joking. I mentioned in the last video, we actually couldn't decide which of the topics and content that we wanted to cover should come first. So I literally put it on a randomizer wheel, and luck of the draw today, top 5 albums. And there are some rules to this. It has to be top to bottom albums you can listen to track 1 to the last track without skipping anything. There's not a song on there that's kind of a clunker, so that disqualified even some of our favorite albums. But that'll
debatable.
Like for me personally, I'll just mention one that didn't make the cut. One of my absolute favorite albums ever is Hysteria, but I couldn't include it in this one because although I love Hysteria by Def Leppard, there are songs on there that, if I'm listening to the album, I'll skip it. Like Pour Some Sugar on Me. Great song, love it, classic, but it's so overplayed that I skip it. So that one got left out. Or albums like Korn, Greatest Hits Volume 1. I spent a lot of time with that. It means a lot to me, but it's a compilation album, and the problem with those is that some bands won't put those out because they want to or it's time to, but it's fulfilling an obligation to the record company. A lot of bands will do it as like their last release from their original label before they move on to another or bigger or late independent or whatever path they're going to take.
Yeah. That being said, let's get into it.
Wait just a second, one more thing. I forgot to mention in that last video, if you saw it, you already know this, but we recorded a kind of a song parody intro, and we used the song Lonely Train by Blackstone Cherry to introduce the Jane Doe podcast, and it was a lot of fun, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to try to come up with a different song, different parody for every single video, just to be goofy, and because we are a band, and even though we're putting out a lot of talking content, we do want to make it very clear that we are about making music, so we figure outside of when we start releasing our own music, just a little bit of taste of music in every video. That said, let's go. Go first, Nick.
Oh, I'm going first again. Cool. I love to go first.
Once that or you whine later, it's,
Better get my dinner on a movie.
That's it. We're breaking up. This is over.
Oh, yeah. I knew you were a cheap bitch.
Yeah.
Anyway, my first pick would have to be The Poison by Bullet for My Valentine. It's one of the first albums that really got me into the metalcore scene. And coming into playing guitar also, and it just got me pumped for what was to come in my discovery journey. I really enjoy the album top to finish, and wow, that was stupid. Top to finish.
That sounds vaguely naughty, doesn't it?
Very naughty.
Naughty.
But yeah, it's a great album top to bottom. I know how to play every song on it, as well as most of their other discography, with the exception of the last album they put out, because I just haven't really dived into it like that. Man, if I could grammar today, that would be great. Haven't dove into it. Similar to dove, but not quite. But yeah, just got a bunch of good songs. It spans the whole range of metal. You got your heavy songs, you got your fast songs, you got your ballady type songs. Really, really good album.
So you got on that one?
That's it!
All right. Getting right into it. My first one is Finding Beauty in Negative Spaces by Seether. That album, I got introduced to it. I had a video game. It was called Burnout Paradise. It was a racing game, and it had the radio edit of the song "Fake It" on there. And I, back in the day when games had good soundtracks. A lot of them, you could go in and you pick which music you want to hear. So inevitably, I would go through and take out all the pop or the rap and the stuff like that, and just like isolate the rock songs.
I did that too.
And
I did that on Most Wanted a lot.
So on that one, it was like there was 3 songs. It was just the whole time you're playing the game, it's just the same 3 songs over and over. And I like that song so much that I went to Walmart and I saw Seether. I'm like, oh, that's that band that does that song. And the first album I looked at was that album. So I'm like, okay, it has that song. I'll get it.
Yeah.
I was unprepared. There are so many great songs on that album. I mean, just start to finish.
Dude, am I the only one that turned off Paradise City on that game?
Yeah, you get so tired of listening to that. That intro's only good the first 32 times in a row.
Right. Every time you start up the game, is take me down to the Paradise City. And I'm like, nope.
It's like, no, I'm going to Paradise City. You're staying here. Shut up.
I always had that one, and there was another heavier one. I can't remember what it was. A really good song, though.
Unimportant. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good songs on there. Some of my favorite tracks on that album are No Jesus Christ. That's a great one. Walk Away from the Sun is one of those that kind of puts you in the kind of a real vibey mood, kind of a drifty mid-tempo song. I really like that. But I think one of my favorite ones on the album, if I had to pick a favorite, is either Rise Above This or Six Gun Quota. Very different songs, very different feels, but those are probably my top tracks. I've actually gotten to see Seether live one time, and the only song they played off that album, unfortunately, was Rise Above This, so at least it was one of my favorite ones.
Really? They didn't play Fake It?
You know what? They might have played Fake It. Now that I think about it, they might have.
I was about to say, it's like one of their top songs from that album. I'd be highly surprised if they didn't play Fake It.
I'm glad they did play a good amount of. They played some new stuff, which I appreciate when a band does. But they did throw in some old ones. You know, they played Country Song. They played at least Rise Above This, maybe Fake It. But then Remedy, I think they encored with. So
right.
But that's all I've got on that one.
Great.
Numero 4 por Nicky. What you got?
Quattro. I was doing these 1 to 5. Oh, well.
We're poor organized. So wait, you've already said your favorite one?
Yeah.
You know what? We're trying to be original.
Actually, no. Yeah, you're right. I did do this 5th to 1st.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I was going to say we're just going to be original. We'll both do 2 different things. It's
Son of a bitch. No, I didn't. I don't know what order I put these in. I'm looking at it now.
Okay,
I don't know what order I put these.
Spoiler alert, Nick's favorite album's already been said. I was going to say we'd just be really original and we'll do 2 different things. It's up to the audience to figure it out. You should have responsibilities. Why do we have to do it all? This is hard.
Well, let me just backtrack and say the Poison I would probably say is number 4 on the list. I'll go ahead and do 5 so I can continue 3, 2, 1 style. Okay,
fair enough. We'll correct the error, and rather than edit it like a bunch of amateurs or like they do on TV, to quote Bill O'Reilly, not that he's someone to look up to, but it, we'll do it live.
Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly.
I'm going to make that bleep particularly loud. Not to be confused with
Bill Maher, very opposite sides of the political spectrum.
Yeah, let's avoid that topic. Anyway,
don't trust Nicky to do anything. All right. No, so rejigger it, and now give me your number 5.
Number 5. Number 5 is Suicide Notes and Butterfly Kisses by Atreyu. Another one of those early ones that, it was one of their... I don't know, I think it was like their 2nd or 3rd album, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember which one it is, but it's one of the first ones I discovered by them.
I'm not sure. Atreyu's kind of up your alley. I think you actually introduced me to them with their greatest hits record, actually.
Yeah, because I left it in your car forever, and it was in the CD player for some reason, and we were both too lazy to take it out. So
they have that one song.
That's what she said.
I can never get the title right. Is the title of the song Wrong Side of the Bed or
Right Side of the Bed?
Right Side of the Bed. I always get that backwards. But yeah, I love that song by Atreyu.
Yeah, it's a great song. But
side note, is it on that album? Would that be a plus?
See, working memory, ADHD. Well, I can't even remember a single song on that album right now.
What's your social security number? That's what I thought. Anyway, anything else about that album?
Yeah, I was really getting into Drop C at the time, and I didn't really play in D or standard for real, and I was looking for bands specifically that played in Drop C and discovered them, and a lot of their stuff was just really good outside the box. They had a dedicated screamer, and the drummer sang all the clean parts. At least for the most part on that album.
Actually, that's neat.
And his voice is crystal clear. Brandon Soller's got a great voice, and dude screams like, I don't want to say they're bad, but they're definitely different than what a lot of the guys were doing at the time.
Yeah.
It's a very different kind of scream, and it's very raw and authentic, and I liked it. That's all I got on that one.
All right, fair enough. I, unlike Nicky, prepared correctly for this. My albums are in order, and there's a reason for the order they're in. So.
You also took 4 times longer than I did to compile your list.
Yeah, this got more difficult than I thought once I started thinking of stipulations. So with my list, the order was decided not necessarily in terms of what I'm going to pick to listen to first, but more how it ranks in the hierarchy of life experience. So the order is, partially determined by what I've been listening to longer and what makes more of an impact, and kind of balancing those two very different things. So this one is probably the album that I've listened to consistently longer than any other thing on my list, including the number one, shockingly. But this one goes back to being even like 3 years old. My dad had a VHS tape. This band did a video for every song on this album and released it as a compilation. So I would watch it constantly, and that is Invisible Touch by Genesis.
Didn't see that coming.
I'm very influenced by Phil Collins. He's one of my favorite drummers and singers. The progressive nature of Genesis is just endlessly fascinating. Everything takes a very different direction. This album has everything from out and out top 40 pop to, which Phil Collins obviously is good at, to my favorite song of all time, which we will do a video on, Domino Part 1, In the Glow of the Night. It is a 10.5-minute epic, and I desperately want to do a metaled up cover of it. That said, there's a million songs on here that I could listen to constantly. Tonight, the Brazilian, the instrumental on the album. My favorite.
So let's just be clear. It's tonight.
It's tonight.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't have a stutter. That's the name of the song. But I think my favorite song on the album has to be the song Anything She Does. If you haven't seen that video, look it up on YouTube. It's hilarious. Do yourself a favor. And actually, it inspired something that my dad came to lament. In the video, they're practicing in the rehearsal space before a concert, and Phil Collins is kind of drumming on whatever, and like at one point he even uses the light above his head as a symbol.
Yeah.
And so I started beating on everything and totally wore out the arm of my dad's recliner.
Dude, I did that too. I had a whole drum kit set up in my bedroom. I stole somebody's snare stand and put a fucking binder on it. I had a full binder just sitting on this snare stand, and then I used pillows for my rack toms.
Yeah.
And
I'm well versed in the.
I taped a notebook to the top of this little karaoke thing I had that was about thigh high if I was sitting down, and used that as my floor tom.
I'm well versed in the tonal qualities of various pillows and cushions.
Yeah.
But that's all I've got. Genesis, Invisible Touch at number 4 on my list. Now that we're back in order and focused, number 3 from Nicky.
And these change over time. This is just my current list as these albums apply to my life. My number 3 would have to be Scream Aim Fire by Bullet for My Valentine. It came out pretty much immediately after I got into them. And, you went from like some good chunky heavy riffs to like more of a thrashy type sound, much more speed metal influence in that album. A lot of songs helped me work on some things for my playing. Scream Aim Fire helped me work on alternate picking and string skipping. Almost said screen skipping.
Screen skipping.
Screen skipping. It's where you jump from screen to screen to screen to screen and then punch one in the face. But yeah, and the Waken the Demon helped me with my down picking. A lot of those songs helped me with the triplets. So that album really helped me with speed and a lot of other various techniques. So it's going in the top 5. Just there's not a song on it I can't listen to 1,000 times and haven't listened to 1,000 times.
And made me listen to 1,000 times.
That's why they're your favorite of mine.
Yeah, that's probably actually true.
And by favorite, I mean least favorite, because I literally would not shut up about them for, I don't even know, 8 years.
I have nothing against Bowling for Valentine. They're extremely talented. I enjoy them. However, his latest fascination, Ice Nine Kills, was really great the first 30 times. I mean, they're great, but just, God, he's.
It's one of those you can't listen to on repeat, but I will do
not only
exactly that.
Not only that, but like I could have listened to it again until you made me over and over again, and now it's just like, stop.
No, that wasn't me. That was your son.
Well, that too, yeah. He got my son into him, so constantly from my back bedroom in my house, I'm hearing my son standing on his bed screaming the words to every song, which that's probably not. It's probably bad parenting. Either way. But is that all you got on Scream Aim Fire?
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Like I said, kind of weighing impact versus what came first, which is why my 2 and 3 are where they are. They could be interchangeable, but because one came first, it elevated to number 2. So number 3, Folklore and Superstition by the Kentucky Legends, Blackstone Cherry.
Of course.
In the intro to the last video, we did a parody of a Blackstone Cherry song that actually came off the album before this one. That said, that album is pretty great. Their self-titled album. But Folklore and Superstition for me, it's not that it's not, you couldn't call it a concept album, but there's some interesting things on there. They delve into some darker topics. They literally reference some local Kentucky legends like the ghost of Floyd Collins. Great song and great voice intro by John Fred Young's Uncle Fred, who is incidentally the drummer for the old Southern rock band, the Kentucky Headhunters.
They were great live too. We saw them at the fair.
Oh, yeah.
They were incredible.
Yeah,
I never expected some old guys like that to put on a hell of a show like that. But it was incredible.
They're legends, man. They get on stage and it looks like, your old uncle and your grandpa on stage, and then they start playing, and they're playing, Dumas Walker, and they do some covers. They do Norman Greenbaum's Spirit in the Sky, and they're just so good at it. But yeah, Folklore.
Not to mention that was an energetic show.
Oh yeah.
Surprisingly, you wouldn't expect 60-year-old dudes to be doing cartwheels and jumping on each other and shit on stage, but yeah, they were about that life. They were about that life.
But yeah, Folklore and Superstition, a lot of great songs. My actual, if I had to pick a favorite Blackstone Cherry song of all time, which is why I had to put this album on the list, is the song The Key. I absolutely love that song. As a matter of fact, I want to get part of the lyrics tattooed. In the first verse, they say, I saw a 2-headed dog fighting over a bone and a black-haired woman turned into crows. So I literally want to get that tattooed, like the images of a 2-headed dog fighting over a bone and a black-haired woman, like hair fading out into birds.
The first time you showed me that song, I remember I was in the car for some reason. We were talking about it. You told me about it and told me to listen to it and then call you back. And I hung up on you. And then when I put it on, I had my radio at about half volume. And then, the minute it got heavy, I was like, oh! I blasted it in my car. I was like, damn, it's a good song.
But, a couple other mentions real quick on that one. The song Devil's Queen is amazing. It's fast-paced, talks about a haunted riverboat. That one's awesome. But then there's also the song Reverend Wrinkle. And the bridge of that song is so simple and so classic, but it is I will break my neck headbanging to the bridge of that song. It's just pure rock and roll bliss. I love it. Check it out. But for that matter, check out anything Blackstone Cherry. Those guys are amazing. Support them with all your heart. As any cherry head will tell you, we do. That's why I'm wearing the hat. It's dirty, but it says Blackstone Cherry right there. But all right, that's all I got on that one. Huh?
You take horrible care of your merch. They're gonna fire you.
No, it's because I wear it all the time. I wear this to work. I can't put this hat down.
Yeah, I've only got 2 hats, so I'm right there with you.
I bought a new one.
Hats go through some
I bought
shit.
a new one last year. We went to see him, and I handed it to him, and then we went to the merch booth, and I bought some other stuff, and then the hat disappeared. I haven't found it since, so it's either lost in my car under a seat, or he left it on the merch table, and that sucks because it was like a $40 hat. So, either way, moving on. Your number 2.
I'm glad you're keeping track of that.
For the record, when I say your number 2, there could be kids watching, so keep it classy, San Diego. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do classy. Anyway, these last 2 are by the same band. And after I give the first one, anybody that knows who they are, see if you could pick the second one before I say it.
We have no way to know if you did, so lie to us and tell us you were good at it.
That's what I do. Anyway, my number 2 has to be Disguised by Motionless in White.
Side note, you ever DVR Jeopardy so you look smart to your friends?
No, I can watch Jeopardy for about 30 seconds and then I'm snoring on the couch.
Continue with number 2 for 300, Alex.
But, yeah, it's Disguised by Motionless in White. That was kind of my rediscovery of Motionless. I followed them for the first 2 albums and then kind of lost touch with them for some reason. I can't remember what it was, but I got focused on something else, and with the ADHD in me was just like, yep, that's the only thing that matters to you right now. So, yeah, I'd have to say Disguised by Motionless in White was my re-entry into them, and I was going through a lot of personal stuff at the time. And, it opens up with the song Disguise. And it's got this creepy piano intro, and then it just gets heavy out of nowhere. Chills down my fucking spine, let me tell you. And then, the chorus really hit me hard, too. Because the song's, for anybody that doesn't know, the song's basically about putting up a wall of an alternate personality to either avoid your inner pain or put up a mask for people to not know who you really are. And the song's about breaking down that mask and not letting yourself keep pretending to be someone else, and really coming true to yourself and facing the things you've done and all the bad and the hurt in your life and moving past it in order to be happy. And at the time I was going through a lot of really depressing shit for me, and I needed that song. And then every subsequent song was it was either really good and really heavy, like Thoughts and Prayers. Just like you said, I want to break my neck listening to the breakdown of that.
Yeah.
He says, open your fucking eyes, and I open my fucking spinal column. But I remember one time I was playing it and I kept doing the little exaggerated knee bend thing that all the metal guitar players do, and I bent down and it sounded like cracking 80 glow sticks. I don't know if that's because I'm getting older. There was just a lot of air in my kneecaps, but it was hilarious. But yeah, that album just had a lot of really deep songs that meant a lot to me personally, and it was the saving grace at the time I was going through all this stuff. Got me back into them. I did deep dives on other albums. I've got other really great albums, but that's got to take the number 2 for me. That's all I got. Sorry for the repetition.
No, it's all good.
I wasn't talking to you.
I know, that's why I responded. Number 2. This is one, on both of our lists, there's not a lot of things where, I'll say one and Nick's like, oh, me too. Or Nick will say one and I'll be like, oh, how did I forget that? Here's one that we have in common. And that is the self-titled, or the White Album, from Avenged Sevenfold. This was my gateway to modern metal.
That's fair. That was a really, really great top to bottom album. Going
into middle school, made some new friends. Naturally, I kind of tried to find the kids. Luckily, I was in band class. I found the kids who were into rock. At the time, the heaviest thing I listened to was Dream Theater because my dad was into them. Other than that, it was all classic rock, 80s stuff, quote-unquote hair metal, even though I hate that term. We'll get into that at a later date. But I had a friend named Dustin, shout out.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah, I know he subscribed to the channel, so appreciate it. He went over to his house for his birthday party, and he showed me this song that was new at the time. He's like, you got to hear this song. It's awesome. It's metal, but they use violins and stuff, and he's talking about killing his wife, and she comes back to life and then kills him, and then they get together in the afterlife and live happily ever after. I'm like, that's dumb. Let me hear it. And,
as we do with most things.
And that song was A Little Piece of Heaven. And
Sidebar, I
It's
still
just-
remember the first time I heard that song.
Oh, yeah?
And I was like, oh yeah?
Tell me.
was
Tell me
like-
more. Explain.
I was like, dude, like first of all, that's heavy. Second of all, that intro was fire.
Oh, yeah.
Like the same fire that burned Hayden. But but yeah, I was like, dude, that went hard. And like by the time I got through it, it's a 7.5 minute song. By the time I got to the end of it, I was like, wow, that was 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's an epic. It's an opus. It takes you on an adventure, and I love story songs. Always have. But from that, he was like, "Oh, if you like that, check this out. This is one of the more regular like rock type songs." And then he showed me Almost Easy. Third song wasn't on that album. He went back to the City of Evil and showed me Backcountry. But I mean, this album, it has everything you need, man. It's got everything. It's got a country ballad. You know, and you go from literally the opening track is like hard rock, you know, riffy,
Critical Acclaim.
Yeah, excuse me.
Why do you always do this?
I'm allergic to your bullshit.
Fair enough.
But you know, you go from Critical Acclaim, Almost Easy, very up tempo, and then you've got the out and out neck breaker that is Scream. If you don't like that riff, you're defective. There's something wrong with you. But you know, you go from that into songs like these sweeping epics like Unbound and Lost. And
Lost is great.
You know, and then you finish it up with A Little Piece of Heaven and Brompton Cocktail, which is, I think, Avenged Sevenfold's most underrated song. Side note, I've been a fan of them since I was 11 or 12 years old. I'm finally going to get to see them. I bought tickets to be able to see them at Louder Than Life this year. I'm so excited.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna cut somebody probably myself if I don't get to go.
But
I'm probably gonna cut.
That's going to be a huge moment for us for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, you finish that album up with Brompton Cocktail into Gunslinger, and then Dear God, the nice sweet ballad to top it off, and it's just it's the cherry on the sundae, man. That album, I never skip a song, and if I do, I feel bad and go back and listen to it. It's just,
I'm kind of upset that I didn't put that on my list.
I kind of figured you would say that. Yeah.
I didn't think about it.
I
didn't think about that one.
You run down the track list, and it's like, ooh, that's ooh, oh, but how did it just?
Yeah, because like the first album I ever heard by them was City of Evil. And that's because of Blinded in Chains, as I mentioned in a different video on Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Yeah.
Blinded in Chains was on that album. And then that's how I discovered Backcountry and Seize the Day and all that. But, I discovered them right before that album came out. Kind of got into them a little bit right then. And then I found out their drummer died. And then I really got into them. Like, I was already pretty into them at that point, but I got really into them when the Rev died.
Yeah, for the record, the Rev.
Sinister Gates.
I mean, specifically in this album, his vocals on how did I skip this when I listed the tracks? Afterlife.
I was gonna say something about that, but I was just gonna let you look stupid.
I mean, to this day, I have a huge vendetta against bands playing to tracks, and let me be clear. Orchestration, I don't expect you to carry an orchestra. If you have a keyboard part for one or two songs, that's cool. If you got a piano piece, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about faking it. I'm talking about the singer going while the album is playing in the background and people air guitaring. That said,
I can't stand that either.
The only band that gets away with it out and out backtracking vocals is Avenged Sevenfold, because it keeps the Rev in the show. They put him up on the screen. His voice is just as loud as everything else. And when they play songs, especially off this album, like Afterlife, like A Little Piece of Heaven, and his vocals are coming out, especially after he passed away, it hits different. It's such nostalgia for all the reasons I explained. And, the Rev was just amazing. And, quick little side note, the first song me and Nick ever performed in front of anybody else, it wasn't on this album, but it was a tribute to the Rev, which the song So Far Away from the Nightmare albums, the first song we ever played in front of people. We played it for his family after his dad's funeral. So this band means a lot.
We went back after the wake, and they happened to have an acoustic guitar at the place we went, and I was like, yeah, we're going to play a song.
But, this band means a lot to us, and the only reason it made number 2 is because I have a much more deeply rooted history with my number 1, and that is the only reason that this album did not make number 1 for me.
That really makes me want to punch myself in the face for not putting that on my f***ing list.
Yeah, I figured. But,
damn it.
Moving on, your lame, not as good as my number 1.
Oh, I missed! Damn it!
And we're good. Let it out.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Anyway, my number 1 would have to be Creatures by Motionless in White, and that's only because there is literally not a song on that album that I will skip ever.
Oddly enough, there is one that the singer of the band will skip.
Which ironically is most people's favorite song on the album.
It's so sweet and nice.
It's a running joke between Chris Motionless and the fan base that he hates City Lights. Which is surprising considering how long he manages to hold that note right in the middle before it gets heavy as all fuck.
But that's a good call though. That's, I'm not typically one, I'm never going to list metalcore or whatever you want to call it. Don't, please, all you genre specific people, don't hate me when I label something incorrectly if I'm doing so.
I love metalcore.
But, I appreciate it. There's a lot of it that I like. But oddly, this album is one that I will listen to on my own when he's not around. I actually just... we
were just talking about it the other day. We were just talking about Creatures.
You play...
You brought it up out of nowhere.
Abigail? Who doesn't think Abigail's a banger?
That riff just comes in out of nowhere, just ready to melt your damn face off.
Yeah, it's a great song.
And then you follow it with songs later in the album like Puppets. Just that drum intro is just gnarly. And that was the first band I heard that was like not 80s that had a keyboard in it and had applied it to the kind of metal that I like in a way that worked.
Yeah.
And it was a very tide turning album for me.
And what's the title of the...
I got into that like right when it came out, so that was like their first big release. They had other songs before that, but that was their first big release. Yeah. That's what brought them into the limelight of the metal scene.
What's the title of the song that starts with the Dracula clip? The Listen to Them, Children of the Night? What's the name of that song?
Oh, frack. Oh, I can't remember.
That's gonna bug
We Become the Night? No, that's off the new album. I want to say .com part 2, but I don't think so. Probably Count Choculatus. I think it is Count Choculatus because that would make sense. Nope. Tread.com. No?
Yeah. We only come out at night. It was a detour, and you stared at the top of our heads for a while, but we got there. All right. But yeah, I love that, and that actually inspired me. I actually want to write a song, and it's not plagiarism. Don't judge me. But I want to literally take that.
Sure?
I want to take that quote and make it the chorus of a song. Listen to them, Children of the Night, what music they make, and I want to, more inspired by Dracula than Motionless in White. But I can see how I could be accused of being derivative on that one. But it's just such a good quote. It's just so classic.
And it was a great album. You're incorporating the keyboards and the synth and all that, and then Chris had. It's better now subjectively, but he had a really great sounding scream. He had a really great clean vocal.
Yeah,
almost all the songs.
I love his voice.
He does really, really high screams and really, really low screams and everything in between, and he blends it so well.
You know me, I'm a sucker for melody, and his cleans on that. I mean, the chorus, the Abigail, City Lights.
Yeah,
he might hate it.
Angelic. Puppets, to name a few. The actual song Creatures, which was a great music video also, might I add. You know, this is a great top to bottom album. There wasn't a song on it for me that I wasn't just like, gnarly.
Yeah.
Tubular. No. This is a great album. I can't.
But all right. So that's it. You heard it here first.
It was a good album.
Nicky V's #1 top to bottom album of all time, Creatures by Motionless in White.
There we go. I finally cried.
And moving on to my #1.
It sucks.
Yeah. Wow.
I really feel like I'm going to regret that in a second. I ain't even looked at your list, so I don't even know what it is.
You hear that? That's the internet coming to murder you.
Come at me.
If we are
Many have tried.
Hello, internet. We have some internets for you.
How many internets you got?
Come see us interneting.
We need 5 internets.
But all right, my #1 is the only tattoo I have, and the only album, therefore,
Loser.
tattooed on my body, and it is Van Halen 5150.
Was that your shoulder
What?
that popped?
Yeah, it hurt a little bit. Not gonna lie, but
I was like, God.
yeah, 5150 by Van Halen, their first album with Sammy Hagar, and here's where I trigger a fan base.
I thought you busted your moose knuckle.
But yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Trigger warning, David Lee Roth fans. I love David Lee Roth. I spent my childhood watching their video hits and trying to do scissor kicks and backflips. That said,
I would pay money to see that.
we are trying to get YouTube famous, so
I'm sure if somebody could find a video,
stay tuned.
I'd pay for it.
You know, my dad actually might have one.
How much does he want for it?
I've got to talk to him. That would be some great content. But I think there's a video of me with my little mini red guitar and sunglasses on trying to sing an air guitar to the song Run Around. Not on 5150. But yeah, this album is the first one with Sammy Hagar. And again, I'm a sucker for melody. I'm a sucker for songs you can really sing along with. And nothing against Van Halen. They probably have the top to bottom most untouchable first 4 or 5 albums in the history of rock. From Van Halen 1 all the way through 1984 and everything in between. Diver Down, Women and Children First, all of that is spectacular and was great. That said, I prefer Van Hagar. I love all those albums, but 5150 especially, it was just really formative for me. Not only the music, but they did a concert film on that tour called Live Without a Net.
I can't even lie. It was a great live performance.
And I mean, even though sure with a lot of those, and this one included, they'll go back in the studio. I think this one actually started. Eddie went back and was like, I want to fix this. And because he fixed some guitar stuff, it threw everything off. So Alex had to redo the drums, and then Mikey had to redo the bass, and then Sammy had to sing some vocals in the studio to patch things up. That said, while it may not be, 100% authentically live, it still captured live performing, whether it was in the studio or not, their presence on stage. And as somebody that's getting into a band and getting into, hopefully, a career in music, the atmosphere they created on stage in that era, the energy, that brotherhood gang mentality that they just had at the time. They just lost David Lee Roth and brought in this guy that already had a history, and just the songs on that album spoke to that so well. I mean, these guys went into a room and was like, hey, here's this thing we got. And Sammy Hagar starts scatting lyrics, and in 15 minutes they had the song Summer Nights, which is amazing. And it took them all of 10 minutes.
Yeah. I also want to point out, too, because I don't know if you're going to bring this up. Sorry if you are, because payback. but I also want to point out that that was the first live DVD that I saw, and not because Van Halen's bad, not because Eddie wasn't an incredible inspiration to not only me but everybody else that ever picked up a guitar after he hit the stage.
He's God.
Agreed.
Him and Lemmy.
Not because of that, but in the same way he probably can't stand Bullet for My Valentine, I can't stand Van Halen because he just plays it constantly.
Yeah.
It's not my cup of tea, while I do appreciate it and like some of their songs. I'm not crazy about him like he is, and he's not crazy about Bullet like I am. That being said, that was one of the first live performance videos that I ever saw that I felt like I was in the crowd as opposed to sitting on my couch.
Yeah, it's just like the energy. Cocaine was a hell of a drug.
They bring that energy to their show regardless. You know, you say it all the time. It's like a party that you're all at, and they just so happen to have instruments. It's not the separation of the artist versus the crowd that you get at some shows. It was truly a party vibe. And they even put that into the video to where you're watching in your living room. You know you're in your living room. You know that you could just walk into the kitchen and get a drink, but you don't fucking want to.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, I might miss something, and then I'm going to be pissed. Because I don't know how to rewind things yet because I'm 12 and my parents don't let me control the remote.
But yeah, I mean, that getting away from the live video, the album itself, it was such a stretching out for them creatively. You know, Eddie being allowed to play keyboards. You know, Dave said, "You're a guitar hero, man. Nobody wants to hear you play keyboards." Yet they had a huge hit with a keyboard song, the album before. But, I mean...
As he does.
You know, it opens up with, Good Enough, just, that double bass. By the way, a lot of people think double bass is a modern metal thing. Listen to Alex Van Halen on the opening track of 5150. It's 4 minutes of never ceasing constant double bass. Dude.
Which one?
The song Good Enough. Is the whole song. Again,
I feel like he did that just to be like, hey, look what I can do.
In my opinion, Hot for Teacher may have been original, but this sets a bar. But you have songs like that one. You have Dreams.
Just a side note, I couldn't play the pattern to Hot for Teacher that he does on the double bass. I couldn't do that on my guitar, and I could play some pretty complex rhythms.
He cheated.
And I couldn't.
He networked pedals together on 4 separate drums. But anyway.
That sounds about right.
Other songs on that album, Love Walks In. I love that song. It's about aliens. Well, it's not to love. But then more specifically, the line in that song, the line "silver light shining down," it's just so evocative. I love the imagery in that song.
It's provocative. Gets the people going.
Dreams, we both love that song.
Yeah, that's a great song.
We actually were talking about doing an acoustic version of that, and then Sammy Hagar put out an acoustic version of that. So
derailed.
We might still do it.
Because how do we follow that though? How do we follow that? The guy that helped write the damn song.
Yeah, the guy that wrote the words that
put it out.
But
like a fire on Hayden's chest.
Oh, by the way, side note about this album. The song Why Can't This Be Love? I have a bone to pick with Van Halen fans on that one. Okay, you know what? He rhymed a word with itself, but you, it's a good song. Stop making fun of Sammy Hagar. You sing along by yourself in the car. You lying bitch. But,
you bitch you.
You bitch you. But
anyway.
Just amazing songs, and probably the song that nobody knows if you have never done a deep dive into Van Halen or that album is the last track, Inside. And it was a really original thing to do. It's a song, but it's also kind of this fake behind the scenes thing, and they're talking about it's literally a song about Sammy Hagar entering this new band, and I love the line in that song. He goes, I got this job not just being myself. No, I went out and bought some brand new shoes. Now I walk like someone else. And that's a good line. But yeah, I love the energy of it. Do yourself a favor, listen to 5150. Watch, it's called MTV Unleashed on Van Halen. It was a short documentary MTV did about them on the tour for that album. Feel the energy, when they're in that documentary, when they're like showing what they do backstage before the show and they're getting hyped up, and then there's that moment when they're like, the road guy says, "Let's go," and they go walk up to the stage. Just every time I'm like, that's what I want. I start getting the adrenaline, I start the heart flutters, and I'm like, ugh, it gets me going like hardly anything else does. And that is why it is my number one top to bottom album of all time.
Yeah, I get that. That's 100% fair.
All right, this has been a long one.
I can't agree, but I definitely understand.
This has been a long video. That said, let's wrap it up real quick. Anything you left off, or like things you had to cut off for one reason or another? I mentioned like a couple of greatest hits records that I didn't add because I wasn't sure if they were the band's idea or the record company's.
Yeah, the fucking White Album.
No, well,
very depressed about that. Like
just because you're short-sighted and overlook obvious things, that's nobody's fault. It's not the list's fault. That's your fault. That's on you.
No. I don't think I'm gonna leave my house for like a month now. I'm so ashamed.
Do you hear that? He hates Avenged Sevenfold. He thinks they're garbage. He can never be a member of the Deathbat Club. He's not allowed to purchase any of the NFTs, and he's banned from all future shows. I've been injured twice this episode. All right.
You got injured twice last episode too.
It's becoming a trend. It's a dangerous business.
This is just once an episode at some random point while you're talking. I'm just going to smack you in the mouth. The internet. See how many times I have to do that before I draw blood.
Remember, kids, the internet is a dangerous place.
Don't try this at home. That's our job.
Mostly because you're cluttering up the algorithm, and we need that right now. But all right, that is it. Unless you got anything.
I don't really know. I mean, really any of the rest of the albums by Bullet, because they were all great. I love every song they've done, including the bonus tracks.
Let me get this crystal clear, and as Nick pointed out in the last video, clear. Let me get this straight. I was going to wrap up the video. You started talking, only to say, "Oh, awesome!" That's
sharpest tool in the shed. This one.
He is not the sharpest crayon in the toolbox, to turn a phrase. All right,
backflips.
You done? Anything else? You don't?
Can I pick your nose?
Any '60s R&B like you threw in the last video? Nothing.
Buckethead.
He's released like over 250 full-length albums.
That really doesn't surprise
that's a fact.
me.
Look that up. That's crazy.
He very much seems like that kind of guy that just absolutely spends literally all of his time playing guitar.
My thing is, how do you stay that skinny when you have to eat that much KFC to get the buckets?
Yeah. Actually, honorable mention. All Hope Is Gone.
I knew what he was going to say because it was a very hard cut for me too.
And the subliminal verses.
Yeah, great album. But All Hope Is Gone is just a fantastic album. So, that was a hard cut.
Yeah, for sure.
But now? Yeah, check your tattoos. What did we miss?
Actually, I want to throw Ice Nine Kills' last album up there too, because as much as you hate it, it's just, it was such a... Alright, Sammy, calm down over there. But yeah, I have to throw their last album up there, because the one before that, The Silver Scream, it was great. It was a stepping stone into a very different kind of metal for me. But they took everything they did in The Silver Scream, and they didn't turn it up to 11, they turned it up to like 30 for Welcome to Horrorwood.
I'll give you that.
And it was just, dude, like, you listen to it top to bottom for the first time, and you're like, yeah, all of these songs make sense, especially in the order they're in. Very clever what he does in Assault and Batteries, by the way, doing the Toys R Us theme for the chorus.
I'll give it this in all fairness.
That was a great melody choice.
It is such an original concept. It was such an original idea. It's presented in such an original way. I mean, viewing an album as a cinema piece.
Yeah. And then they're doing that. I think they planned better. I could be wrong. Forgive me, Spencer, if I'm wrong on this. I'd like to think that they're going to make music videos for all of those songs, because they're doing like a
you would hope
cinematic process, and like all the videos are evidence in a case that he's killed his wife or some
gory
shit.
Stage play
and
all
like,
the time.
Yeah, like each one's a piece for that. So it's I can't wait. I'm so excited. That's all I got.
For real this time?
Yeah, for real.
Cool. Thank you very much for watching. This is a Jane Doe podcast. Please remember always to like, subscribe, and check out some of our other videos, which I imagine Nick will edit to be somewhere over here.
Down here. They're down here.
Blessings be to you. We're out.